Welcome to the Winners Table, where the conversation is different when you sit with the winners. I'm your host, Amber Wright, and I'm joined today with Angela Hawkins of Bamboo, Freddie Taylor of Urban Intellectuals, and Jeannine Brown of Everyday Lead. Today we're going to have an interesting conversation about a hot topic in the Black community, and that is critiques of Black-owned businesses. So we're going to get right into it, yes?
Yes, I'm ready.
I want to know from you all, why are we so hard on Black-owned businesses? What are your thoughts on that? Are you in agreement on that we're too hard on Black-owned businesses?
I definitely agree. We are too hard on Black-owned businesses.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is, you find that I think it's a familiarity that people get because you're a Black-owned business, I'm a Black person, so we're cousins, and then they end. You find that people are almost with no experience coming in and critiquing something that they know nothing about. But it's because of that familiarity that they have with you that they feel they have the right to do that. I have found that people, what was really interesting to me, we go beyond, above and beyond with customer service. And there was one in particular instance where the person didn't feel as though their question was, they had, the mail had lost their package. And then they came back to me and said, the mail lost my package, can you send me another one? No, ma'am, you have insurance, so we've tried to go through that route. And she said, well, this is why I don't deal with Black-owned businesses.
And there it is.
Yes, and that broke me to my core because I knew it had, this has nothing to do with the color of my skin. It has nothing to do with my inability to serve you in this role. It had to do with your perception of what I should do because you feel a familiarity with me.
Okay.
And that to me is kind of an example of what we get as business owners.
So your answer to why that is twofold. There's just this sense of familiarity, kind of commonality, we cousins,
Exactly.
at play, and then also a lack of understanding about business in general.
Business
okay.
in general.
I feel like we're going to circle back to the second part too. What about you, Freddie?
We got to circle back to that because, like, the product-based businesses are like feeling your pain there, that UPS. But I just think it's a microcosm of a bigger issue inside of our community where we're overly critical of us in every aspect of our life, from business to parenting to male versus female to women to children. Like it just seems like there is a forced dissension amongst us. Like we don't really come together and bond and try to help and lift one another up. So I think like that's a bigger community issue.
Okay, so you're saying it's not really unique to businesses specifically, it's just another example of how as a people we are hard on each other.
Yeah, and I dig into the history, but
I like that perspective.
But we've been educated away from loving ourselves, right? So we don't know our history. We all we know is we're slaves in this country, and then we Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, they march, now Obama, we free.
Yeah.
Right? But there's a longer history.
So much more there.
So much more there.
It's not
right?
our origin story.
It's not, but it just whittling us down to just that forces us to see each other differently, see yourself differently, like you see yourself as less than. And that just, I feel like, pours into every aspect of our community.
Leave it to Freddie to make it all deep right in the beginning. I love it.
but when he says it from that perspective, it does take you to another level of understanding, because I've even heard that when there was a critique of Black parents for spanking their children, and someone said the Black parent was taught to spank the children because they wanted to get that child tough enough to deal with what's on the outside. So then you wonder, is that customer or the critique, the criticism coming from a place of, I want to make you tougher so that you can handle what's out there?
Come on, just psychoanalysis.
Yes, I know. I love this though. We're going to circle back to that too. Okay. I want to hear Jeannine.
I thought that was interesting that you said that, but don't beat me to show me that you love me. Like I'm not really down for that, but I think it's okay to have an expectation of great service, great products, if you're doing it from a place that you want to see me win.
Okay.
I think there's a challenge that happens when I'm going to criticize you from a reflection of ignorance, right? I think we've moved into this place of so much cruelty and mean-spiritedness that we don't even see it when we're giving feedback. People give more negative feedback than they give positive praise.
Oh yeah, they'll tell 9 people about a negative experience and
They've
1 person
had
about a
with you.
positive.
And so I want to, to your original question, Amber, is I think it's okay to give feedback. And I think we grow from it. Now, I don't like feedback, I'm gonna be honest. But I think we definitely grow from it. But I think it is how we deliver it.
Are Black-owned business owners too sensitive to feedback? It's just like, no, what did they used to say? Nobody better say nothing bad about Miss Jenkins. Like, you better love my mac and cheese, girl. It's like, but your mac and cheese is nasty.
Yeah,
so it's
I think
like,
how it comes. And I know the Delta Airlines and the Targets and all these big businesses of the world, they get their feedback too. They get criticism, they get it publicly on social media. But I do feel like there's this rejoicing of, this is why I don't, of the pile on, and I'm going to choose to say, because you're Black, you own the business, I'm not gonna deal with you because I knew, right? It's like they're confirming some bias that they already had.
It does feel like it's something that they're holding on to. So circling back to what you were saying
exactly
earlier,
what I thought was gonna happen.
That's what fascinates me about it is, and this is why I don't do business with Black people. Yeah. So how do we call up the businesses that actually do need the feedback and their customer service is wanting? The customer service, can be better, or the way the store is run or their processes could be better. This thing about feedback, how do we call them up and not out?
I think a review process does that. A review process of the service, letting that customer give you direct feedback, in whether you send them an email asking for that feedback, or they can submit it to your website. Where I think the problem lies, and I think Jeannine said it in some of what she said, social media. Social media. People just become, they just stand on these soapboxes because they have a microphone now. So if you have true feedback that you feel could help that business to grow or to change or to evolve, give the feedback, but you don't have to tear them down.
So then the onus then is on the business owner to ask for the feedback.
Ask for the feedback, or provide an opportunity.
I think the biggest challenge is that so many people go into business ownership alone. Right. So you complain about your HVAC guy not showing up on time, but Best Buy give you a 6-hour window too, right? So, and they got a whole system in place. And I think we have to remember that as well. But even as business owners, we got to move quickly enough to get to the point where we get the assistance and the help we need to be able to operate in a way that our customers do expect for us to operate. So I think it's a catch-22, unfortunately, right? Because you need the income and the revenue to be able to hire. But at the same time, you gotta find ways and systems and educate yourself, or find communities where you can educate yourself so you can learn things faster, so you can level up faster in that business.
And I think we see a lot of what we're talking about play out in the product space, as Freddie was mentioning earlier. So how do we navigate? Because what I hear us saying is that there needs to be, it's like the communication process. It's transactional.
It's transactional.
There's a sender who sends the message through a channel to the receiver, and the receiver takes their turn sending their message back. It's a cyclical process. So how can we move the conversation beyond just exactly the conversation that we're having? Because I think it stalls out here. It's Black-owned businesses are not open to critique, or they are over-penalized for their grievances or for the things for missteps that just kind of happen.
But I think that the idea that we have a communication issue also can stem from the fact that a lot of us Black business owners are first-generation business owners. We don't have the history to rely back on the grandfather or the father who had done this before us and showed us the way and showed us the ropes. So a lot of us don't understand what that communication should sound like. So that's, again, what Jeannine mentioned about becoming a part of that community. You may not have the money to pay for an assistant or what have you, but what you do have is an opportunity to go out there and connect with some people, connect with some other business owners that are doing the same thing or have done the same thing before you, that can show you what an email sequence sounds like when you're going to communicate with your customer. There are going to be times when we don't get it right, but I bet you if you sent that email to tell your customer, here's where we are and here's what's happening, it shines way better than you waiting for them to come to you to say.
You got to learn that.
You got to learn that, a community.
That does come through community, but I try to be a compassionate consumer. I spend probably about 85% of my dollar in the Black and brown community. And I'm really conscious about that, but I'm fortunate because of where I live in Atlanta that I can do that. But I also try to be very compassionate. I think giving feedback is good, but give it with some love. Don't talk to me as if I am a servant. I am here to serve you, but I am not your servant. And I think sometimes we come into that in that way. And I recognize that most when I traveled abroad. Something happened on an airplane, all the folks from other countries were calmly sitting there, just waiting for the plane to be fixed. And all the folks I was traveling with were upset. I was like, y'all want them to fly the plane? It's trying to get fixed. Like, we want stuff so instantly. And we add on this level of it has to be perfect. And I think that falls back into us always talking about Black excellence, right? We have this distorted definition of what it is, and it causes all of this anxiety and pressure. And then before you know, we're beating up on each other for no reason.
Let's dissect that a little bit more, because I do think that there is this dichotomy there, because this idea of Black excellence, and then you go forth and be excellent, and then it's like, see, that's why I don't like her. Then, so look, what you were saying, Angela, about social media, we've been seeing this happen a lot on Twitter or wherever, with so much to say, and it's like, do you have a degree in this? I mean, like, how is everyone an armchair expert now to offer these?
I think you still got to go back and remember our history, right? Our people have been so abused over the last couple of 100 years that it comes out as anger against ourselves, right? So I think as business owners, you got to kind of remember that, and you got to try to hug your community through their hurt and pain. Like, it's a terrible situation to be in.
But do I owe you a hug if I'm just changing my formula to improve my business or my product?
That's no.
So
I don't.
Do you know what I'm saying?
But
so
you gotta understand what's about to happen, and it's gonna come for you.
And understand having
it's
greater
part of. We gotta navigate
context
this.
of why what's happening.
Why what's happening? Behind it is the pain that we have been suffering, the trauma that we have had over generations, and it's just coming out in different ways.
So then, why do we take it out then? Is on the person that went forth to be excellent and was able to.
That's what I'm saying. The person that's spitting the vitriol at those individuals, whether it's parents, whether it's women, whether it's business owners, they're the ones that's injured, that's hurt. They don't know how to act like a whole person.
But if I'm, as the business owner, if I'm lacking the same cultural context, then how do I have the tools to give this community the grace that is coming down the pipeline with their pitchforks? I remember when Lisa Price sold Carol's daughter, everybody was like, see, that's why we can't have nothing. We can't have nothing. It's like, but there's this question of what it means to actually exit a business.
I think that's a business acumen issue, right? A lot of consumers, we buy, but we're not educated on the system of creating wealth in our businesses, what it takes to run a business, and not even recognizing that being able to sell to a larger brand and still come and work for the company, make a check, get equity and bonuses is a win. That is a win, and I don't think we understand that. We think that we've lost something, we've given something away, but now with that wealth that she's created, she can now go do other things for her family and the community.
And I'm glad she raised that point at that time in season. Now, let's be disclaimer, I don't know this woman personally. This is just from, secondhand what you read, interviews and things directly from her though. And she said, Estee Lauder is one of the biggest beauty companies in the world. Like, why can't this be framed as a positive thing that my business that I started in my kitchen in Brooklyn, I've been able to sell to the business.
I have an original bottle. I remember what that product used to come in. And I think we forget that there's this whole journey in business ownership.
And they, like you said, they don't understand, right? Because it's like we were at the TSP Live conference, right, last year, 2022, right? And Magic talked about owning those Starbucks. And then he didn't take any money until he got to about 50. But then when he got to 125, he sold them. But no one's calling Magic a sellout because Magic is pouring that money back into the community, building an array of other businesses that's hiring Black folks, that's training Black folks, that's helping the community and the ecosystem. But this is what happens this is what is possible when somebody is able to exit their business for, an ungodly
So
amount.
I think what it all comes down to, though, is that people will point and criticize those who are in the arena. You know what I mean? So when you're not in the arena, when you're not in the fight, come into the arena, get marred, get scarred, and then you can have a conversation with me about it.
I agree with you. I think that's the challenge, right? People who are out here doing stuff, we're so busy, we don't have time to criticize. Like if I go to a small restaurant, no matter where it is in the country, and I know that it's not a chain, I'll ask, is the owner here? Is the chef, the head chef here? I want to be able to make that connection because they need that. They need to hear, my gosh, this was the best. Yeah. I enjoyed this experience. And if I do have feedback, it's not the first thing that comes out of my mouth. Like, I had to stand in line and wait. No, you know what? That wait was worth it. I wasn't expecting to wait 45 minutes. There's so many ways where you can deliver information to people to both empower them, educate them, and give them the information they need to be able to have a better, stronger business.
Yeah, and that's right up my alley because communication is my area of expertise and it's what I do. And so I always think, even when I'm frustrated and when you finally do get somebody on the phone, it doesn't matter what type of organization. If it's Jim who answers the phone, I'll say, Jim, you're the third person I've talked to about this today, and I believe in you. I know that you're going to be the one to solve this problem. Aren't you going to be? You're the man, Jim. I know you're not going to transfer me a fourth time. So let's talk about how we can get this problem resolved. These are small business problems that Black folk tend to ascribe to a Black-owned business problem. So I really feel that what's resonating here with me and that I want our viewers to take with them is there's an education gap. Mm-hmm. We've got to learn more about these these terms about what it means to actually exit a business. Mm-hmm. So are you all in agreement about that? That maybe there just needs to be, in order to advance the conversation forward, there has to be more education?
I'm going to push that just a little bit further because we could then educate, and we could strive to do better. But if we're still operating in these solopreneur environments, how much better can we do when we're trying to do all the things?
And is it our responsibility, right? Is it really the business owner's responsibility to take time from running the business?
Yeah, but that's not what I mean. I'm just saying on a broader level, in terms of, say, the work that Freddie's doing and with his Black History Facts cards, and maybe there is a business deck that helps to just educate the general populace about business in general, so that way we all. Now, I don't know how this would be facilitated. This is just a broader context. But what I'm kind of coming back to is, how do we move beyond this ping pong game of people are so hard on Black-owned businesses?
I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part. I think what I do is I have a community. Okay. And I think that building a community builds a culture, helps to get your business out there. And, from a small business perspective, that's one of the unique selling propositions that we have, is that we can connect. Mm-hmm. And in that connection, I do give my people, my group, kind of a behind the scenes, like, this is how we run our business. Yeah. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing this. And I think it creates a better repertoire between me and the customer. Mm-hmm. And if something's going on, if there's a big sale, hey, you guys know we just killed it. Thank you guys for the support, blah, blah, blah. It's going to take us a minute to get your items out to you. Yeah. It's going to take us a little bit longer than we would normally because we have so many orders. We thank you.
I'm so happy because it comes back to communication. Because that's the through line, I think. That because I take a similar approach in my business. And people they want to feel invested, to say like they're going on the journey with you, which I also think is why sometimes people feel betrayed when the business is sold, because it's like, it's ours. Like, I was a part of it. I remember when. And so I think broadening our discussions around what it looks like to raise a Series A or to sit at a table with a venture capitalist firm and kind of understanding all of the different facets, because Magic's talk at TSP Live also resonated with me as well in thinking of, he said, I don't love any of my businesses. I don't love them all.
But I wanted to get back to the community, because if you properly build your community and communicate with them, when that negative vitriol comes at your business, they will form a wall and shield you. Yes.
Nobody better not say nothing bad.
Listen, that's right. But that comes from building a community and serving them properly, right? Yeah. Like, and pouring into them. Like, our customer service is a big part of our business, but I didn't know that. 15 years ago. I didn't understand that, right? It's something that you evolve into that's really critically important.
So let's talk about that more specifically. How did each of your journeys into entrepreneurship? So you mentioned earlier about there's a certain type of business owner that's going to care about the feedback and have the form ready to go. So how was your perspective on business building and entrepreneurship formed?
So I typically work with corporations, and the people in those organizations who buy our services are executives and they're leaders. And so they're representing someone else's brand when they're dealing with me. And I over communicate, but it was the way I worked. I came out of a large consulting organization. So I modeled how we run our business very similar to the work I did when I was working for a large corporation. Now, we make mistakes, and we have, and I will send emails and like, we messed this up. I do want to offer the services that we have that large corporations get directly to consumers. Like, I really want to, but I'm a little hesitant because I'm scared. I'm scared. I should be scared. I'm scared. Like, really, really afraid.
It's a pretty aggressive environment, but I think you got to be honest with yourself, right? If you can handle that frontline customer interaction or not. What I discovered over time was that's not my space. That's not my thing. It is not my ministry, because you're not just gonna come in here and talk crazy. You're just not gonna talk crazy to me. Listen, here's your $20 back. We don't want your business. You can be on your way. And that's, and we've done that many times. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, that's that Midwestern swag about us. But over time, I realized, hey, I need to get somebody else in here on customer service. Now I get to set the tone. Like, one of our core values is community hugs, right? We understand that I'm all about love, right? But we recognize, again, that our community has been scarred, right? So they need to be loved on, and they're doing important work, right? So we serve parents and grandparents, right? Y'all know, everybody know Gladys by now, right? She's famous, right? We service Gladys, right? So we're doing important work helping her. So we try to instill in our customer service department that, hey, they might have said something a little sideways. Don't worry about it. Maybe they had a bad day. Let's just make sure we get to the issue. Let's solve the problem, do what we can, and let her know that, we care. We apologize.
I'm with Freddie. I thought I loved customer service when it was good, when everybody was happy. I loved customer service. But then when I realized that there were some people who just genuinely want to show up in a negative space, and they wanted to take me down there with them. And I realized that was, I could ruin my entire day chasing behind an email that someone sent deliberately to throw me off, and deliberately to be critical of a business that I'm growing, that I'm nurturing. So it's not for me. So I did have to put somebody in that space right away. I do have to convince myself to get out of it every once in a while. I'll find myself in there, and it's not the negatives that I'm dealing with. I just truly enjoy connecting with the customer. But I also realize that with the good comes the bad. And if I am so emotionally tied to this business, and I am, it's my baby, I don't need to hear that my kid is ugly.
Being attacked, people being disgruntled is part of business ownership. I don't think we talk about it that way, right? We are very celebratory around it. I do believe most people want to see the business owner win, but there's also a huge psychology around wealth, not just obtaining it, is how people without wealth look at the wealthy. Right? There's a lot of psychology around people do not like rich people. And I don't even know if people realize that is what's manifesting in them as well. And so, that internalized right, and that's why I think it's important, it's important for you to protect yourself and to shield yourself and have other people, when you can, also be the face of your business, right? So I think that's probably where I see some of the things that concern me.
And it's also the perception of wealth. When someone sees you on social media talking about I'm a business owner, I have a product, I have a service, here's what I'm doing. People are commenting, in your comments, I brought that, I have mine, that they automatically assume you're rich. And then they put you into that bucket of oh, she can't identify with me, and she thinks she's special because.
Meanwhile, some of the richest people aren't even on Instagram and social media. So that's in part 2. This has been a really fantastic conversation. Do you all have any final thoughts on critique of Black-owned businesses and how we can advance the conversation forward? We've had some really thoughtful discussion today.
I love what Jeannine said, and I hope that people will take that to heart. Be an empathetic consumer. Like, have some compassion, have some grace, and if you have some feedback, which should be welcomed, offer it from a place of love.
Yeah. And you know me as a communication expert, the way that you can do that is, I have some feedback for you on my experience as a customer. Would you like to hear it? And hopefully the business owner says yes. And if they say yes, then you share it. If they say no, then you take your things and you move on.
I'm always in a bigger picture state of mind, right? So I think the community needs to understand how critically important Black businesses are to our future. Like, we're drastically underemployed, always the highest unemployment rates in the country. And that's because our businesses are solopreneurs, right? They're not able to hire our community. People hire people that look like them. And if we don't support Black-owned businesses to foster their growth, right? Not just because they're Black, but we need them to operate in excellence, right? I don't expect you to go throwing your money away, right? But we need more of these businesses to thrive so that they can hire your nieces and nephews and cousins that's gonna need a job at some point. It's just black businesses are so important to our economic future. I think that we shouldn't take that lightly.
That's a fantastic point. Freddie, thank you.
Yeah, I think business owners can really help themselves by just taking time to reevaluate their processes, right? Evaluate the experiences and be really tuned in to what customer and client experience is, right? By starting off saying, what do you want it to be? What do we want people to experience and feel and think about us? And it's not just, I have this product that I want to put in your hands. I have this service that I know will change your life. What do I want you to experience when you do business with us? And then I think circling back to what Angela said that I said so well is be empathetic. Get to know the business owner from a place of humanity and not servitude.
Excellent. That concludes today's episode of The Winner's Table, where the conversation is different, where you sit with the winners. See you next time.
The Combo, your home for conversations on Black entrepreneurship and wealth, available on your favorite platforms.